Welcome to What the Group Chat Say, the podcast where the group chat finally got a mic. We're three friends in our 40s talking about life, friendships, relationships, and everything we didn't see coming in this decade. I'm Bonnie, here with Keya and Drea. And on today's episode, we had another question from the Group Chat Reacts that we thought deserved its own episode. Today, it's all about co-parenting. And the Group Chat Reacts, we have another question from one of our listeners. And it goes like this. What is your opinion on different co-parenting when one parent is getting married and their partner has a say, but the other parent isn't good with that?
Ooh.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Ooh. So would it
Yeah, I'll
be
let you go
uh
first.
so the angle I would ask, or the first question I would ask, is the other parent doesn't have a say so, as in if the child can be in the wedding or the other spouse. So that's kind of vague because I feel like if
Wait, did she
my
bring up the wedding? Like, what was read the
Well,
question?
I think that they brought, so
I
here's
think
my
they're just saying like
interpretation.
they're getting married.
They're getting married. So now
Like that
person's the
person is
wife.
now part of decision making in the household. I think
Yes.
that's what
And
the
other
question is saying.
co-parent doesn't. Yes, they don't like that. So how are you getting through that? So
Like
now
for
they're
instance, if I'm
unified.
getting married, how would my son's father feel about it? So Key, you've experienced this
Oh,
because you've
Yeah,
been
yes,
with
married
helping
with
raising your
kids,
yes.
children. Yeah.
right?
So for me, with someone else, a say so in raising the children, I always established that discipline was mine. And as far as discipline, it's like physical punishment. Like, you may tell them to do something, you can tell them go clean their rooms or anything like that. Like, you can even put them on punishment. But as far as the physical discipline or anything like that, don't touch my kids, because I never touched his kids. 'Cause I just don't believe in that, because you're not their other parent. But
And so that would be the same for, because think about it, you've experienced this on both sides. Because like your ex-husband,
yes.
didn't he get married again too?
Yep,
Okay,
he
and your kids
did.
were still younger, right?
They still were younger. Yep, they
Okay.
were. And
Did you guys have a conversation about this? Like when you decided to get married again or have someone in your house, did you guys ever have this conversation about what's the expectation as both of you are bringing someone in your household and you guys have children? Did you guys have that conversation or no?
the funny thing is I don't think we ever sat down and had like a hard heart to heart talk, because I think the first one knew that no, you're not going to put your hands on my children. So he didn't have to have that talk with me, because that was the type of mother I was. But for him, because I didn't trust his judgment, I did tell him, not ever in her life put hands on my kids. You better always handle it. But he never had that. It wasn't a reciprocal conversation. So then I think
It's an
also what
unspoken
made,
understanding.
yes,
Okay.
unspoken. And then I think what made it easier for my second husband was the fact that the first one walked out, like, gone. So there was no input needed, because I was the full-time parent. I handled everything from A to Z, so that the other parent wasn't involved hands on. So therefore, when the second husband stepped in, it was just him and I raising kids, if that makes sense.
That
Have to.
totally makes sense because I raised my son. I was that true definition of a single mother. There was no
Right.
options because mine lived out of
Absolutely.
state. And so I will say that some women will say they're single, but yet their son's father or daughter's father picked their asses up every other week or have them every week. So it's like, are you single? Are you co-parenting? I think that that's important for us to talk about too is what is people's definition of co-parenting? Because I don't feel I ever had a co-parent because he left out of state. As my son got older, they had
With me.
conversations, but still it was my house, my rules, right? And I think
Absolutely.
that some people also need to know that you're co-parenting. If you're broke up and your kids are seeing each other, their parents, you guys are co-parenting. Like two different households, rules, punishment that may start at my house needs to continue at their house. Like things like that in conversations and healthy co-parenting. I think it's important for people to, if you don't know about co-parenting, you should really read up on it and like the foundation because it's really helpful with children. And then you're really not co-parenting if the other parent's obsolete, if that makes sense. But then, like I said, people get in relationships. So, what would you say,
It
Kia, with the question of do you feel like the other person who's having an issue with the co-parenting because they're getting married, would you say, like in a healthy co-parenting, they should have a conversation on what discipline looks like, what the involvement of the other parent looks like? Or would you think also that if the other parent's having a hard time, they still might like the parent who's getting married? There's so many thoughts that are coming to my head about this
there's
question.
so for me personally, I feel like all parents involved should be on the same page when it comes to the children. So if you're going to go into a healthy co-parenting situation, you have to realize that you won't be in that other parent's home. So you can't tell that other parent that their spouse can't be involved in the everyday raising, especially if that spouse is taking them to sports practices or recitals or anything that our children had to do. You can't now look at me and say, this person that I'm marrying has no say so in their everyday day to day, especially if I am the custodial parent. Like, you don't get to tell me that this person doesn't have input into what it is that our children should be doing.
Right,
And
because there is a level of respect that you kids have to have.
absolutely,
And I want people to hear
absolutely,
that when you do find a significant other that is not the parent of your child and you start dating, those children have to learn to respect them. And that doesn't mean
absolutely,
physical, but they need to respect them. And when you cause them to have some type of confusion or a potential manipulation of, I ain't got to listen to you because you ain't my daddy. I ain't got to listen to you because you ain't my mama. There causes problems there. And then there starts causing problems within the house because children become teenagers that are assholes who can manipulate. And you see this a lot when there's two parents, two different households, rules and stuff. Kids will manipulate if they can get away with something. There's always one parent or one household that might be stricter than the other. So I think like what you're saying is very important. People need to understand that is that there is a fine line with the other parent needing to be involved and the respect that needs to be
absolutely.
built.
I absolutely agree because you have to at least be able to come to the table because Drea, you alluded to it earlier that if I'm giving a punishment here, then I need that to continue. So before my boys' parent walked out, um, it was they had cell phones and they had gotten it taken because they hadn't done something at the house. And the second husband was like, yo, we need to nip this in the bud because they're not going to learn their lesson about this. So, like, you need to take this privilege away because they're not listening. They're not, you know what I'm saying? Kia boys need X, Y, and Z. And, you got to get harder in this stance. And I was like, "Mm, okay." So we took the phones and I told Voldemort, yo, don't give the kids the phones, but you can come pick them up because, you know what I'm saying, they were in school and just when they were at his house, because no one had landlines anymore, that they would have a way to contact, like if you had to run out to the store or whatever, but you don't give them back the phones. I need to follow what we're on over here because they on punishment. And it was a little bark and what it yo, I'll just keep them, and then we ain't even got to deal with it because I need them to understand that this is what they need to follow, and I need you to get in line. And
Gotta back each
uh,
other. As parents, you gotta back each other.
you have to
Absolutely.
back, and because the first didn't like the second, I think he let the the situation of manipulation creep in, like you said, because they knew, oh, well, my daddy don't like him anyway, so we ain't got to do it. So then it's like when they came home, I always had to reprogram because, yo, what you're not about to do is buck up at this house. You're not going to do that. We were not doing that. So it was reprogramming. And then, as hard as to say, like when the other one moved to another state, just stepped out and act like my kids didn't exist, it was easier for me because then now it's just me and now they're step parent and we had it on lock. So if you guys aren't going into the co-parenting situation supporting one another, it's only going to harm the children, like Drea said, and it's only going to create situations where they are pitting one against the other, and they are going to pull those little strings because they're assholes at a certain point, like Drea said. Well, I don't want to live with you no more, and I want to go. So it creates those scenarios. So support one another, just like we learned in all of our divorce. If you're divorced from that other parent, like when they had us take those parenting classes, that's very helpful information. Be on one accord so y'all all can raise
I mean,
happy, healthy children.
because I had to take that to get child support. But,
Right.
I think that, like, even though my son's father lived out of state, when he did talk to my son on the phone, it was a bitch fest about me. And I would hear
Mm,
it, and I had to be the bigger person. And as my son's gotten older, I've seen to where it's affected him. And I would see to where he would, when he would get upset when he was younger, he would say shit to me that his dad would say. And that's when I started first picking up on it. And I never wanted to take that privilege away from talking to his parent because that's his parent. But although his dad was not in state, I suffered. Like, I suffered a lot stuff that was said to my son about me, especially when my son was upset. So even with a father residing out of state, the manipulation would happen because he wanted to be the cool dad, or his dad had issues with me. And so when I did need to discipline him, or we had some problems in the house and he happened to talk to his dad, oh, let me tell you, I was the shitty person. So even in those situations,
absolutely.
it can go south, and it can be hard because, like you said, you got to reprogram them. You know what I'm saying? You have to
Yes.
teach them or show them why you're doing what you're doing because you don't have the backing of the other parent. So the backing, I think, is very important.
Very important.
Yeah. I know, Siobhan, I know that you're not really saying much because you don't have, children of your own, but you are an aunt. And I think that that's another form of parenting when you have your siblings' children, right? But also, you've seen some ugly, jealous situations within people that I don't want to say particular because I don't know how
Right.
they feel about that.
Yeah,
But
there
like
we go.
you've
Right. Let me
seen
get
just
plug.
as an aunt, right? Where bad co-parenting, or where a woman possibly still cares for that man and is giving them a run for the money because they moved on. I know you've seen that. And
No,
that
while
could
I was
possibly be
listening.
something you could talk on because you've seen it personally. And
Yeah.
I think this conversation, like this question kind of goes to that is, What if it's because they're jealous or they're mad because you found someone?
Yeah. I was just going to say, while listening to you guys, someone who just has dog, so you hear a lot about dog mom and all this stuff. Like, look, there's no comparison. I mean, the things that you all have to go through, the puppy phase is one thing, but you're not raising anything. Like, let's calm our jets and let's stay in our lane. You can't be like, well, I'm a dog mom. I understand. No, you don't. No, you don't, because we don't have to deal with any of this stuff.
Can I
Like,
just say, I love that you say that because some of the pretentious people that I have come across with, oh, I'm a pet parent. And it's the same. The fuck it is. Like, so I love that you said that, by the way.
Listen, my
forget,
pet
not
ain't
even.
talking back to me like
I
that.
mean,
My pet might piss me off because they might have shit where they shouldn't have because I was mean to them or I ignored them. My pet ain't straight out having an opinion, talking shit to me. You know what I'm saying? And think that they trying to grow up and bowdy about it because they know everything about life.
Girl,
Seriously.
listen, a pet gonna bark. These
right.
kids bark, and then you gotta bark louder. I'm glad you said that, but go ahead.
Like, I don't, that's why I was like, I don't, you know, let the parents have this conversation. And I don't even know, like you said, I've seen it third party, but I think anybody can see and witness that. I don't know how it feels to be my brother to have a parent that doesn't like to co-parent, I would say, in an amicable way. When if you're doing that and just reading that question, if you don't want them having a say so just because of pettiness, not out of the goodness of what is best for the child, then you need to fall back. And I'm sure it's difficult. I'm sure nobody wants to see somebody maybe they're still in love with moving on just from a human level. But it was what Keya said. If it's not in the child's best interest, then you need to let it go. And as hard as it is, and Dre, are you doing that with somebody who was abusive to you and still saying, you know what, it's in my son's best interest to have his own relationship with his father, regardless of how I feel about that man or how he treated me. Like that's a lot of work. And so I can't even imagine.
I'll say this. I could not wait until my son became of age where I didn't have to answer the phone no more. Not for my son, but for his
Listen,
father, for them to have a conversation. Like, it was, like, amazing. Son has his own cell phone, call each other when you want to. I ain't gotta be
Leave me out of it.
involved. I ain't gotta hear the bullshit, you know what I'm saying? But then kids become teenagers and they don't wanna call their
Mm.
parent that's not with them,
Right.
and then
Right.
I'm getting calls, "Why
and
won't
then
he
you get
answer me? It's
blamed.
because of you." And it's like, "Nah,
Mhm.
bro, like, fucking teenager, he's at practice, he's at this event," like, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on now. Like, I still gotta
Right.
my son still to this day, him and my sister got this problem. Like, I text him yesterday, he ain't text back. Still, you know what I'm saying?
Listen,
So,
they
and that
don't.
started as a
They
teenager.
don't. I have a question for you.
Mhm.
In this co-parenting thing, have you had a situation where it was positive that you got to deal with the other parent's significant other where you guys had to talk about either a problem they seen with your son or it was, hey, or I was thinking about doing this. So like, have you had an instance where you've had to deal with the other spouse, like directly, that you guys put
So,
the
my son's father did get married. I never had to meet her in person. She low key was always a bitch on the phone, even when they first started dating. I did not even live in Arizona. I mean, in Texas, I was in Arizona. Like, why do you hate me so much, right? I would say that I never had to deal with her on a level because, like, let me just give you an example. He came to visit his son one time, and in his suitcase, she packed pictures of them and of her in his suitcase because he was coming to see his son and she knew he would see me, right? Like,
Wild.
so their relationship also wasn't very healthy, you know what I'm saying? But when my son was young and he would go out there, he never came back and said anything mean about her. It was just maybe once that he did. So I kind of, when he would go out there, I would kind of mind my business. As long as I can get a hold of my son, I don't give two damns about nothing. You know what I mean? There was a few times
Absolutely.
where it was like, "Oh, well, he's asleep," or "Girl, you better wake my kid up," type of thing. But I would say on as co-parenting aside from the other spouse, just because, like I said, their relationship was not healthy. And I say that because, like, within years, like, my son kinda stopped going out there at a young age. Like, my son had met, like, new girlfriends, and then I remember my son sitting on the staircase saying to his dad on the phone, like, "Well, if my mom's a bad person, but you have a wife and a girlfriend, I don't think that's allowed." So because he met, like, the other girlfriends that, like, when his wife and him would be separated, like, his dad always had somebody, he had some
You?
codependency. But when my son did start getting older, me and his dad would have we actually have better conversations now that, like, he's been over 18. When he was a teenager, there'd be times where I'd call him and I'd be like, "I fucking wish you had your shit together, 'cause this motherfucker right here," you know? We would have conversations, and then he would try to give support, but it wasn't always great support because he didn't always back me because he had too much frustration and anger still with himself for me. But as my son got older, like, if I called him right now and said, "Hey, our son just talked to me like this," oh, he gonna be like, "Oh, hell no, Imma talk to him," right? Or there was a point where my son was very angry with both of us, you know what I'm saying? And I could see why he was angry with his father, like, their relationship wasn't the best, but for me, I did the best I could, right? And so that is when me and his dad would talk a lot, and his dad would also give me, like, once he graduated, like, he was like, "That was all you know what I mean? And you're right, my son shouldn't." And that's when he started realizing the things that he said wrong to our son when he was young and not backing me when I was at my most stressed and needed the support because I was a single woman raising a young boy, trying to keep him out of the streets, keep him out of trouble, provide and support. And so, but then as my son got older, me and his dad could co-parent and have conversations because sometimes we get the same backlash and it'd be like, "What the fuck?" You know what I'm saying? But his dad would say
Right.
like, "No, he shouldn't be coming at you like that," stuff like that. But I haven't talked to his dad in I don't even know how long. Like, we text each other on, like, happy birthday type of thing. Every now and then his dad will text or, might call, but I rarely answer because, like, I don't have to. You know what I mean? And it's not because I don't
Yeah,
I
because
hate him.
our
Right.
son is grown now.
And
Not
it's
to
not
deal with
because, like,
that.
I hate him or I don't like him or anything like that, you know what I'm saying? It's just
Right.
that, like, what do we need to talk about? Or if he texts me, be like, "Hey, have you talked to our son? Where's our son?" I'll be like, "Oh, yeah, yeah. He's doing this or he's doing that," like, every now and again. Or if my son's talking to him on FaceTime and I happen to pull up or I'm right there, he'd be like, "Mom, say hi to my dad." I'd be like, "Hey, what's up?" Type of thing. And I would even say too, like, when my son would go to California for, like, all the holidays and school breaks and stuff like that and stay with my grandma, his dad literally would call him at my grandma's house every single day from Texas. So they would talk a lot then too. But I guess for me, I didn't have to deal with the co-parenting. Now, my very first relationship, I had to deal with co-parenting, but there was multiple baby mamas, multiple children. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah.
And then there was one time where the guy I was dating, I found out when I had left to go to the store, him and his nephew, my son and his nephew did some shit and broke some shit that belonged to the city. And then I guess he had spanked my son. And when I found out, I was like, "You don't fucking touch my kid." Like, that
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. You hit your kids, you hit your nieces and nephews, but we're not married. That's not your kid. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so, like, my son probably doesn't remember, but I always protected him from that. Like, if you gonna spank your kids, then I'll spank mine if I feel I need to, because you're spanking yours, but I'm gonna do it. I had to kind of deal with that for a little short period of time, not very long, probably like 6 months, a year, if that. Because for one, I've taught it, I've read about it, I've studied it. I mean, I am a social worker, right? And I started my career with children and families and having to teach people co-parenting and healthy relationships and how to discipline your children and all those things. So I'm very skilled in it. I just didn't really have to deal with it in my life because after I cut my ex, right? And after that, I never had another man even come close to living in my house. Like, my son barely even met the guy. You know what I'm saying? It took years. And then when he did, He never was in our household like that.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. Um I know that co-parenting is a hard one if you have somebody who's stubborn and narcissistic, who is still in love with the other parent, because they will never be at a point where they're thinking straight and saying, "Hey, let me put my child first." They will always find a problem with the other spouse because it just, in their mind, it's like it's supposed to be me there. I'm not going to say that out loud. So in action, I'm going to make waves and make trouble in your household as much as I can. And that doesn't benefit anyone, because why do you want to have strife with the other parent when it's already hard enough? The children are not in a home with the original parents, and now they have 4 parents. And so why do you wanna make that transition harder, would be my take on the co-parenting issue, because it it creates stress for everybody. And at the end of the day, whether you're the parent causing the stress or trying to diffuse it, why does anybody want stress when having kids is stressful enough? So find a way to make it work. I know I always poise myself to be like, yo, I have no issues with you. I If your kids need to call you and they don't have a phone or their dad is out, hey, they can use my phone. This is my phone number. So they can call you. You can call them. I'ma always pick up. And that mom was definitely like, "Hey, if you need it, let yeah, I got you. Oh, you need me to do what? Okay, cool." And so I've seen healthy, only because I've fostered healthy, and I've also seen the unhealthy side because my kid's dad, his first spouse, oh baby, my kids would say she act like she hated them because their dad was still in love with me. And so
I
I
think that's
had
why my
to,
son's father's wife didn't like me either,
yeah, and
even though
that's
we had
so
been broke up
crazy.
for years.
It,
Yeah, because he
right.
literally called and asked me, "Are you sure you don't want me? Because if not, I gotta marry one of you guys, because these kids and expenses." I was like, "The hell out of she can have you. I don't want you. No,
I
and you
don't
had a
want
kid by
you at
somebody else?
all.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not."
Absolutely not. And that it's like when you have situations like that, I will always say, like Drea did, just choose to be the parent who is trying to create an amicable situation, because if not, it doesn't help anybody. And those kids are going to exploit and pit everybody against everybody. So be adults, and
Right.
parent the children
And I'll put
together.
it now I will say this now that you're talking and thinking about, like, other kids. My son has a little sister, and she's always known about me, and I've talked to her on the phone, and when she's come out here when she was little, like, I met her, like, his little sister always had respect for me, so I know that even, whether her mom cared for me or whatever, I will say that his sister was always very sweet, respectful, I know who she is to this day, right? She knows that I'm his mom, and so I will say that although I never met his wife and I think that she had some issues, she must have not really said anything bad really about me because her daughter never treated me bad and my son never said anything, bad about his stepmom. So I will say that, because I have met his sister and I have even talked to her on the phone, even when they started getting older, like say hi and stuff like that. So I thought
Right.
that was good. It's not even like some kids never know who their brother or sister's other sibling is. You know what I mean? Parent is like,
Yes.
yeah, my son, yeah, no, his sister is sweet.
I love that. And that's also a positive, like you said, his stepmom may have felt the way, but she didn't stand in the way of the sibling relationship. And that's another part of co-parenting because what if that other spouse on either side has more children? Now, these children are going to be going into a space of, oh, well, this mom and dad here of these kids allow this, and then my mom or dad with their other spouse who may not have kids don't allow us. So then now the kids are getting angry at each other for something that the adults have set up, and one set of children are feeling like the favorites and one is feeling like, oh, they don't love me. So then now you're creating whole problems in these set of children's heads when it's like, just come to the table and be adults and parent your children. That's
And I agree because I will say this, my son's an only child on my side, right? But he's
Mhm.
got a stepbrother who's close in his age, and he's got a little sister. I will say though that as he got older, he kind of saw, I think that at times he did struggle because like those other kids, even his stepbrother, like for his stepbrother was like, "Oh, that's my dad." Yeah, because it is, that's your stepdad. But at times, I think my son felt like they were closer, which they lived together. So that would make more sense. And so I think that at times, I'm sure that caused some issues for my son at times. You know what I mean? Because my son would say, "Well, I think he likes my stepbrother. It's because he sees him all the time, or reassuring him." But I do know that one time my son's father was like, "Well, my stepson, that's because he fucking lives with you. Like, that's why he probably listens better." You know what I mean?
yes.
And trying to get like when my son did go visit, like try to have separate times because these other kids see you all the time, little things like that. So I think there probably was some things back then, but my son was young and couldn't really articulate it then, but I can see it at times when he got older. So that kind of stuff is important too, because when you do co-parent, that one kid may not be living with the other parent, and they might be the one coming over on the weekends or in the summers. And I think that parents need to remember that too, is like how to find ways to give that equal time for the child who's the absent child.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And like you said, in the case of, hey, this child only sees this other parent times out of the year because maybe it's the weekend. So, yes, you have all these other children in the other household full time, but take this child and explain to the other kids that, hey, mommy or daddy has to go here with this one. Explain it so they can understand that you guys get mommy and daddy all the time, but mommy or daddy now has to take your brother, your sister out um for this little time, and then create a time for family time. Because I know for me with my second, I always made it a point to be like, nah, like, go. I'll keep my boys in here, but y'all go, just go, because I understand that they need that because you're here with mine full time. So go, whatever y'all do, go, and then we'll have the next day as the family day. And that created and fostered a positive dynamic because um my bonus kids didn't feel left out or didn't feel like, my kids were getting more of the time only because, we stayed together. So also knowing that, hey, they're going to want that time with their father alone. And also, a lot of times he would say, because we lived on opposite sides of the valley, my bonus kid's other parent, that that car ride was their time, so it didn't look like they were doing some big old special activity. Although my boys always knew because I always just explained it to them like, that's their dad. They haven't seen their dad like you see your mom all the time. So the car ride from that side of town to our side of town, they would stop and get something to eat or do this. So they had all that time to catch up. And so that's another part of the co-parenting aspect that I do see a lot of people get jealous and throw the, well, you don't do that for my kids and you don't do that for my, and that's not needed because the other set of kids are not there full time. So why make them feel less than? Create a space where those set of kids can spend time with their parent is how I feel.
That's really important, and I love that you were woman enough to acknowledge that, and you put the kids first. I mean, you generally have a love for children regardless, but you put the kids first and you looked at what would work for them, what is healthy, you know what I mean? And you weren't one of those jealous wives of, "You need to love my kids more," type of thing. They were very important because there is people who are jealous of people's kids, I've seen it, I've heard it. So, that
Me
could be a whole nother
too.
topic, but my gosh. I don't be understanding it. Like, how you gonna be jealous of somebody else's kid when you chose to be in this relationship knowing that they had kids? Like, don't make sense to me, but that's probably another topic for another time for people.
Right, for both. Oh, but another piece of this co-parenting was the question born out of the new spouse coming in being jealous of that kid. So is this new
Right, there's
spouse
so many different
mistreating?
yeah, like, is that
Yes,
parent who's struggling with them getting married and how it's gonna work, like, is there something that's already went down? You know what I mean? Is do
exactly.
they feel like their child's being left out of something already? Like, there's so many parts to this
There's so
when it
many
comes
parts.
to how to answer it. I think we've done a pretty good job answering it on the surface level or different examples, but if the person who asked the question, if there's something more specific or a situation or what they think that person might be feeling, definitely let us know so we can kind of chime in and because we can always piggyback back on it on another episode
Yes.
if there's more to this question or a
Yes,
situation, I should say.
because that makes a whole lot of difference. If you feel like something has happened to your child, which is why you don't want the new incoming spouse involved, that's a whole different bag than what we've discussed today.
Absolutely.
I think that was very informative, especially for someone like me who's not a parent, just seeing all of that that goes into co-parenting and just the different aspects that you guys have to take with that.
I think it's a level of respect. I will say this because when I did date the guy with all the kids and the baby mamas and like there'd be birthday parties, like most of them would all show up to the party too. But when I was a kid, my uncle, who I respect, like, he had my 2 cousins, and he got custody of both of them from their mothers, and he was married, and so I watched him have to navigate co-parenting to a point, right? But I'll never forget, like, there was, like, a party at his house, and his wife was there, both baby mamas was there, like, it was like, I dare y'all to not get along or act away." Without that being said, now the conversation, I don't know if it was had before or what, let me just tell you, they all dealt with each other, whether they talked or not, but there was no problem, no friction, no issues. He was the custodial parent. I always looked at that. So when I did get in a relationship and we were all there, I was like, "Oh, I guess this might be normal," until, like, of course, that situation got toxic because of his kid's mom, but that's another story. I feel like that was amazing for his wife who had no children by him, right? And then she's helping raise his 2 children that he got custody of while they were married, and then there was a few family parties where either both baby moms were there or one other one was there, you know what I mean? And it was just one of those things, there was no drama.
That's amazing, like, that you said that because I think I have this stance on co-parenting that I have because I seen my mama do it. So like you said, like we've always seen it. We've never named it because my daddy got two and some other kids. And my mama helped raise them. And my mama got along with both sets of parents, like the mothers of those children. And my sister, she like her mama would come pick me up at my sister's graduation. She took her to Vegas and she paid for my ticket to go there to be with my sister. So I've seen it all my life. And I've never seen my mama have an issue with the other kids and never had an issue with talking to the mother of them other kids. And my mama took care of them kids like they were her own. I'm glad you brought that up, Drea, because yeah, we've seen it whole lives. Huh. Yeah. Yeah,
We either saw it healthy or we saw it unhealthy, right?
absolutely.
Because sometimes some people's situation may not be healthy like what we saw.
Right.
But you're right. It's like now that you think about it, like you kind of mimic, you know,
Yeah.
what you did see. That wasn't a bad thing,
No.
right? Because it's not bad to take, like, if you genuinely love people, right? Like, how can you not end up loving someone else's child? You know, there's people who adopt, who love a child that they didn't birth, or you
Absolutely.
can totally love someone else's child
Yep.
and not take away from that other parent that's theirs, you know, and I would hope that you get into a relationship where your spouse or significant other generally loves your child too, because to me, that's a good person. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Now I can understand you not liking my kid when they're a teenager and they're assholes. You know, I'm not saying that part, but I'm saying like generally their well-being. You know what I mean? Like you're willing to go pick my kid up from school or take them to their practice or, you know, care about what their day looks like. Give me a call. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like that type of thing,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. Hey, chatties. We need you to share. We need you to subscribe. We need you to leave us comments and feedback. We love to see you. We love our comments that we are getting. So please continue to follow us on this journey. Please continue to give us topic ideas because I promise you our group chat probably already has it in there. So thanks for joining us.